Have you ever wondered how Roman festivals played a role in shaping Halloween as we know it today? In the vast tapestry of history, the threads of Roman culture are woven tightly with those of the Celts, intertwining to form the richly complex origins of Halloween. Let's embark on a journey back in time to the days of the Roman Empire, a period when two significant festivals, Feralia and Pomona, were celebrated. These festivals, steeped in tradition and mythology, have left an indelible impact on the evolution of Halloween. Feralia, a solemn festival, was an occasion dedicated to commemorating the passing of the dead. It was a day of remembrance, a time to pay respects to those who had departed from the mortal world. As the Romans believed in the afterlife, they honored their ancestors with offerings and prayers, hoping to ensure their peaceful journey into the next life. Feralia was a day of reflection, a day to remember that life, like the seasons, is a cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Parallel to the commemoration of the dead, Romans celebrated the day of Pomona, the goddess of fruit and trees. Pomona, symbolized by an apple, was revered for her connection to the harvest. As the days grew shorter and the nights longer, the Romans marked the end of the harvest season with a celebration honoring Pomona. This celebration was filled with feasting, merriment, and the sharing of fruits, particularly apples, a symbol of prosperity and good fortune. As the Roman Empire expanded, conquering Celtic territories, these two festivals intertwined with the Celtic festival of Samhain, a celebration marking the end of the harvest season and the onset of winter. Over time, the traditions and rituals of Feralia and Pomona began to meld with those of Samhain, forming a unique blend of cultural practices that would evolve into the Halloween we know today. So the Romans not only left their mark on the Celtic lands, but also on what would become Halloween, blending their traditions with those of the Celts. But what happens when Christianity starts to spread across these lands? Christianity, with its powerful influence, began to permeate the Celtic regions, bringing with it new traditions and celebrations. In an effort to supplant pagan festivals, the Christian Church introduced its own observances. Notable among these was All Saints' Day, also known as All Hallows, a day dedicated to honoring all the saints of the Church. All Hallows was cleverly slated on the 1st of November, a strategic move to coincide with and eventually replace the Celtic festival of Samhain. This wasn't a coincidence, but a deliberate attempt by the Church to Christianize popular pagan celebrations. All Hallows became a time of prayer and remembrance, where people would honor saints and martyrs, in stark contrast to the raucous and wild festivities of Samhain. Following All Hallows was All Souls' Day, a day to pray for the dead. This was another Christian observance that took on elements of Samhain. The Celts believed that on Samhain, the boundary between the living and the dead dissolved. The Christian Church adopted this belief in a more palatable form for their followers, using All Souls' Day to pray for the souls of the departed. But the influence of Samhain was not so easily erased. The night before All Saints' Day, known as All Hallows' Eve, began to absorb elements of Samhain. This was a night of anticipation, where the line between the spiritual and physical world was blurred, a night filled with superstition and ritual, echoing the ancient Celtic beliefs. People would light bonfires and wear costumes, much like the Celts did during Samhain, to ward off roaming spirits. These practices, though now cloaked in Christian context, had their roots firmly planted in Celtic tradition. It's fascinating to see how the Christian Church transformed the Celtic Samhain into a Christian celebration, which would eventually evolve into modern Halloween. In the next chapter, we'll explore how these ancient traditions crossed the Atlantic to give birth to the Halloween we know today. So, how did these ancient festivals turn into the Halloween we know and love today? Well, it all began when immigrants, particularly those from Ireland and Scotland, brought their rich folklore, customs, and traditions to America. These cultural exchanges introduced the concept of Halloween to a new land and a new people. The practice of trick-or-treating, for instance, has its roots in the old tradition of souling, where the poor would go door to door on All Hallows' Eve, offering prayers for the dead in exchange for soul cakes. Over time, this evolved into children visiting houses asking for treats. Carving pumpkins, a staple of Halloween, was adapted from the Irish tradition of carving turnips to ward off evil spirits. When they found pumpkins in abundance in America, the switch was made. And dressing up in costumes? That's an echo of the Celtic tradition of disguising oneself to avoid being recognized by roaming spirits. And that, folks, is how a blend of Roman, Celtic, and Christian traditions led to the Halloween we celebrate today.